We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. We celebrate Independence Day, July 4th, in honor of our independence. We call ourselves a free people in the land of liberty. Our anthems proudly sing the praise of this nation, and we raise our voice, wave our flags, and join in song. But how many Americans realize they are not free? This is a myth. The truth of the matter is, what freedom has not been taken or stolen from us, we have surrendered willingly through our silence and ignorance. As Americans, most of us have no idea how our freedoms are maintained, or lost for that matter. Apparently, our ancestors didn't have a good grasp of it either. To even begin to understand what's happened to the Republic, we must look backwards in time to the period following the Civil War. We must go back to the year 1871, which was the beginning of the decline of the Republic. When we examine what happened during that time in our history, we begin to piece together this troubling, perplexing puzzle that is America. The date is February 21st, 1871, and the 41st Congress is in session. I refer to you the Act of the 41st Congress. An act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. This is also known as the Act of 1871. What does this mean? Well, it means that Congress, under no constitutional authority to do so, created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which is 10-mile square parcel of land. What? How could this be? Or why, for that matter? To explain, let's look at the circumstances of these days. The Act of 1871 was passed at a vulnerable time in America. Our nation was essentially bankrupt, weakened, and financially depleted in the aftermath of the Civil War. The Civil War itself was nothing more than a calculated front for some pretty fancy footwork by corporate bankroom players. It was a strategy maneuvered by European interest, the international bankers, who were intent upon gaining a stranglehold on the neck of America. The conniving international bankers were not about to lend our floundering nation any money without some serious stipulations. So they decided on this brilliant way of getting their foot in the door in the United States, a prize that had been looking for quite some time, but had been unable to grasp, thanks to our founding fathers, who despised them and held them in check, and thus the Act of 1871 was passed. In essence, this act formed the corporation known as the United States. Note the capitalization, because it is important. This corporation, owned by foreign interests, moved right in and shoved the original organic version of the Constitution into a dusty corner. With the Act of 1871, our Constitution was defaced in the sense that this title was blocked, capitalized, and the word for was changed to the word of in the title. The original Constitution drafted by our founding fathers were not in capitalizations, and they read the Constitution for the United States of America. It is not the same document you might think it is. The corporate constitution operates in an economic capacity and has been used to fool the people into thinking it is the same parchment that governs the republic. It is absolutely not. Capitalization an insignificant change, not when one is referring to the context of a legal document, it isn't. What the Congress did with the passage of the Act of 1871 was create an entirely new document, a constitution for the government of the District of Columbia. The kind of government they created was a corporation that does nothing good for you or me, and it operates operates outside of the original Constitution. Instead of the absolute rights guaranteed under the organic Constitution, we now have a relative right or privilege. One example of this is the sovereign right to travel, which has been transformed under corporate government policy into privilege, which we must be licensed to engage in. This operates outside the original Constitution. So Congress committed treason against the people, who were considered sovereign under the Declaration of Independence and the organic Constitution. When we consider the word sovereign, we must think about what the word means. According to the Webster Dictionary, sovereign is defined as chief of highest supreme, supreme in power, superior in position to all others, independent of and unlimited by any other possession or entitled to original and independent authority of jurisdiction. Mind you, the corporation has no jurisdiction outside of the District of Columbia. They just want you to think it does. You see, you are presumed to know the law. This is ironic because as people, we are taught basically nothing about the law in school. We are made to memorize obscure factoids, but we're not told about the law, nor do our corporate government schools delve into the Constitution in any great depth. We are living under the myth that this is lawful, but it is not. We are being ruled by the de facto or unlawful form of government, the corporate body of the death mongers, the controllers. With the passage of the Act of 1871, a series of subtle and overt deception were set in motion, all in conjunction and collusion with the Congress. They were too busy drumming the fictional version of history in your brain and mine. By failing to disclose what they did to the American people, the people became ignorant of what was happening. Over time, the Republic took it on the chin to the point of knockdown. With the surrender of their gold in 1933, people essentially surrendered their law. I don't suppose you were taught that in school either. That's because our real history is hidden from us. That is what the way of the Roman civil law works, and our form of governance today is based upon Roman civil law, and maritime law, better known as the divine rights of kings and the laws of the seas. Respectively, this explains a lot. Roman civil law was fully established in the original colonies even before our nation began, also known as the private international law. The great number of committees and subcommittees that Congress has created all work together like a multi-head monster to oversee the various corporate departments, and you should know that every single one of these operate outside the District of Columbia. It is violation of the law. The corporate government of the United States has no jurisdiction or authority in any state of the Republic beyond the District of Columbia. Your legislature will not appraise you of this information. You are presumed to know the law. They know you don't know the law, or your history for that matter, because this information has not been taught to you. No concerned effort has been made to inform you. As a sovereign, you are entitled to full disclosure of the facts. As a slave, you're entitled to nothing. This means you are owned by the corporation from birth to death. The corporate United States also holds ownership of all your assets, your property, and even your children. Does this sound untrue? Think long and hard about all these bills you pay, all those various taxes and fines and licenses you must pay. Don't believe any of this? Read up on the 14th Amendment. Check on how free you really are. Our ignorance of the facts has led to our silence. Our silence has been construed as our consent to become beneficiaries of a debt we did not incur. The sovereign people have been deceived for hundreds of years into thinking they remain free and independent, when in actuality we continue to be slaves and servants of the corporation. Treason was committed against the people in 1871 by Congress. This could have been corrected through the decades by some honest men, assuming there were some, but it was not, mainly due to the lust for money and power. Free me from these chains, free me from this world, before I go in.